Ambassador Vila of the collective stood at the center of the grand chamber. Her 4 arms were folded across her chest. Her silver skin caught the light from 1,000 floating orbs above. Around her, representatives from 47 species sat in their designated seats. The Galactic Council was in session. "We have more important matters to discuss," Vila said. Her voice was sharp. "The trade routes near the Orion Passage are under threat from pirates. The mining disputes in the system grow worse each day. And yet, Elder wastes our time with children's stories." Elder was old, very old. His species, could live for 2,000 years. His blue scales had turned pale with age. His eyes, once bright yellow, were now almost white. But his mind was still sharp. "These are not children's stories," said. He pressed a button on his control panel. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a small blue planet with white clouds and green land. "This is Earth, the of the humans." Laughter filled the chamber. Several ambassadors shook their heads. Others whispered to each other with amusement. "Humans," said Ambassador of the Empire. He was a large creature with thick gray skin and tusks that curved upward from his jaw. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about humans when I was young. They were supposed to be brave warriors with soft bodies. No natural weapons, no armor, no venom, and yet they conquered the stars." He laughed again. "A fine story for children, nothing more." Vila nodded in agreement. "The human myth has existed for thousands of years. Every species has heard it. A race of emotional, violent, compassionate creatures who built great ships and traveled across the galaxy. But there is no proof, no artifacts, no ruins, no DNA records, nothing." "Because the proof was destroyed," said. His voice was patient. He had expected this reaction, or hidden. "By whom?" Vila asked, "and why?" Did not answer right away. He changed the hologram. Now it showed an ancient document. The writing was strange. No one in the chamber could read it. "I found this in the archives of Mai," said. "It is over 3,000 years old. It speaks of a great war, a war against something called the Hollow. The humans fought this enemy. They sacrificed everything to stop it, and then they disappeared." "Disappeared," repeated. "How convenient." "I believe they sealed the Hollow away," continued. "They used weapons we cannot imagine. They gave up their place in the galaxy to save everyone else. And because of this sacrifice they were forgotten. Their records were erased. Their planets were abandoned. They became a myth." The chamber was quiet now, not because anyone believed, but because they were tired of arguing with him. He was old. He had strange ideas. It was easier to let him speak and then move on. Vila looked at the hologram of Earth. It was a beautiful planet, if it was real, if it had ever existed. "Elder," she said, "let us assume for a moment that you are correct. Let us assume that humans were real, that they fought some ancient enemy, that they saved the galaxy. Why does it matter now? They are gone. They have been gone for 3,000 years. We have real problems to solve, real threats to face. We cannot spend our time searching for ghosts." Turned off the hologram, the blue planet vanished. "I am not asking you to search for them," he said. "I am asking you to remember them, to honor what they did, because I believe they are still out there, somewhere, waiting." "Waiting for what?" asked. "For the day when we need them again." More laughter, but this time it was uncomfortable. There was something in his voice, something that made the ambassadors feel uneasy. Vila raised her hand. The laughter stopped. "Thank you, Elder. Your passion is noted, but the Council has decided. The human myth will remain what it is, a story, nothing more." She turned to her assistant. "Strike this discussion from the official record. We will not waste future meetings on fairy tales." Bowed his head. He was not surprised. He had tried to warn them before, many times, and every time they refused to listen. He walked slowly out of the grand chamber. His old legs ached. His heart beat with sadness. He had spent his entire life studying the human legend. He had found fragments of evidence across 100 worlds. pieces of metal that did not match any known technology, stories passed down through generations, songs that spoke of creatures with 2 eyes and 2 legs who loved and fought and dreamed. He believed, even if no one else did. As left the council building, he looked up at the night sky. 1,000 stars burned in the darkness. Somewhere out there, he thought, the humans were waiting. He could feel it. "Come back," he whispered. "Please, come back before it is too late." The stars did not answer. They never did. But deep in space, far beyond the reach of the council's sensors, something was happening. In a region of the galaxy that had been marked as empty for 3,000 years, lights began to flicker. Engines began to hum. Ancient ships, preserved in the cold vacuum of space, started to wake. Inside one of those ships, a woman opened her eyes. She had been sleeping for a very long time. Her body was stiff. Her throat was dry, but she was alive. Her name was Park. She was a lieutenant in the Terran fleet, and she had a message to deliver. She pulled herself out of her sleeping pod and walked to the communication console. Her fingers moved across the controls. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times before the long sleep. She knew exactly what to say. "This is Lieutenant Park of the Terran vessel Horizon," she said into the microphone. Her voice was rough from 3,000 years of silence. "To anyone receiving this transmission, we are coming home." The message traveled through space at the speed of light. It would take time to reach the council, but it would reach them, and when it did, everything would change. The myth was about to become real. The signal arrived at Council Station 7 days later. It came through the main communication array like any other transmission, but it was not like any other transmission. Operator was the first to hear it. He was a young fresh from training. His job was simple. He sat in front of a screen and monitored incoming messages. Most were boring: trade reports, diplomatic greetings, complaints about taxes, nothing exciting. But this message was different. "This is Lieutenant Park of the Terran vessel Horizon. To anyone receiving this transmission, we are coming home." Played it again, and again. The voice was female. The language was strange, but the universal translator converted it instantly. Terran. The message said Terran. Knew that word. Everyone knew that word. It was from the old stories, the myths about Earth and its people. His hands were shaking as he called his supervisor. Within an hour, the message had reached Ambassador Vila. She listened to it 3 times. Her silver face showed no emotion, but inside her mind was racing. "This is a joke," she said finally. "Someone is playing a cruel trick." Her assistant, a small creature named, shook his head. "We traced the signal, Ambassador. It came from Sector 774, the dead zone." "There is nothing in the dead zone. That is why it is called the dead zone." "Yes, Ambassador, but the signal is real. We have it." Vila stood up from her chair. She walked to the window of her office and looked out at the stars. Sector 774 was far away, very far. No ship had traveled there in recorded history. There was no reason to go. Scanners showed nothing but empty space. "Call an emergency meeting of the council," Vila said, "and find Elder. I want him there." The Grand Chamber was full within 2 hours. Every ambassador had come. They had all heard rumors about the signal. Some were scared, some were angry, some were curious, but all of them wanted answers. Elder sat in his usual seat. He was smiling, not a happy smile, a sad smile, the smile of someone who had been right all along and wished he had been wrong. Vila played the message for everyone to hear. Park's voice filled the chamber. "This is Lieutenant Park of the Terran vessel Horizon. To anyone receiving this transmission, we are coming home." Silence followed, complete silence. Then Ambassador spoke. "It must be fake. Someone found the old stories and created this transmission to cause panic." "Why would anyone do that?" asked Ambassador of the Federation. She was a tall, thin creature with 6 eyes. "What would they gain?" I do not know, but the alternative is impossible. Humans are not real. Elder stood up slowly. Everyone turned to look at him. I told you, he said. His voice was quiet but clear. I told you they were out there. You did not believe me, but here is your proof. The humans are returning. One signal is not proof, Vila said, but her voice lacked confidence. It could still be a trick. Then let us wait, said. The message says they are coming home. If it is true, we will see them soon. They did not have to wait long. 3 days later, the sensors detected movement in Sector 774. Something was traveling toward Council Station. Something big. Vila watched the data on her screen. Her 4 hands gripped the edge of her desk. The readings were impossible. 3 objects were approaching at speeds that should have torn any ship apart. Their energy signatures were off the charts. What are they? She whispered. Checked his instruments. Unknown design, ambassador. We have nothing in our records that matches, but they are definitely ships, very large ships. How large? Hesitated. Each one is approximately 12 kilometers long. Vila felt cold. The largest ship in the Council fleet was 2 kilometers. These vessels were 6 times that size. Raise the shields, she ordered. Activate all defense platforms, and send a message to the approaching ships. Ask them to identify themselves. The message was sent. The response came quickly. This is Captain Ho Lee of the Terran warship Dawn of Sol. We come in peace. We request permission to approach Council Station for diplomatic talks. Ho Lee, another human name, another impossible thing. Vila took a deep breath. She had 2 choices. She could order an attack, or she could let them come. Grant them permission, she said, but keep all weapons ready. An hour later, 3 massive warships appeared outside Council Station. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their hulls were dark gray, almost black. They had no smooth curves like Council ships. They were angular, sharp, built for war. Weapons covered every surface. Cannons, missile launchers, energy projectors. But what struck Vila most was the symbol painted on each ship, a blue circle with green shapes inside, a planet, Earth. They are real, whispered. The humans are real. A shuttle separated from the lead warship. It flew toward Council Station's main docking bay. Vila watched it approach. Her hearts were beating fast. Come with me, she told. We are going to meet a myth. The docking bay was crowded. Ambassadors, soldiers, and workers all wanted to see the humans. Security forces had set up barriers to keep order. Everyone was talking, arguing, speculating. Then the shuttle door opened. Captain Ho Lee stepped out first. He was tall for a human. His hair was black and cut short. His eyes were dark brown. He wore a gray uniform with medals on his chest. Behind him came Lieutenant Park and 4 other humans. They all carried themselves with confidence, with strength. Ho looked around the docking bay. He saw the aliens staring at him. He saw their fear and confusion. He had expected this. He raised his hand in greeting. I am Captain Ho Lee of the Terran Defense Force. We have traveled a very long way. We are tired, we are few, but we are here, and we bring a warning. Vila stepped forward. She tried to keep her voice steady. A warning about what? Ho's eyes met hers. There was no hostility in them, only sadness, and something else, something that looked like fear. The hollow, he said. It is awake, and it is coming. We sealed it away 3,000 years ago. We gave up everything to stop it, our homes, our families, our place among the stars. He paused. But the seal has broken. The hollow is free, and if we do not work together, it will destroy everything. Every world, every species, everything. The docking bay was silent. No one moved, no one spoke. Vila looked at the human captain. She wanted to call him a liar. She wanted to dismiss his warning as nonsense, but she could see the truth in his eyes. He was not lying. Come with me, she said finally. The council will hear what you have to say. Ho nodded. "Thank you, Ambassador. I hope you will listen, because we do not have much time." He followed her toward the grand chamber. Behind them, the other humans walked in formation. They were only 6 people against a galaxy that had forgotten they existed. But they were humans, and humans never gave up. The grand chamber had never been so full. Every seat was taken. Ambassadors stood along the walls. Screens projected the meeting to every world in the Galactic Council. Trillions of beings watched as Captain Ho Lee walked to the center of the room. He stood alone, and the other humans waited near the entrance. Ho had insisted on facing the council by himself. He wanted to show them that humans were not afraid. Ambassador Vila spoke first. "Captain Lee, you claim to be from Earth. You claim to be human. Before we hear your warning, we need proof. How do we know you are not lying?" Ho nodded. He had expected this question. "I carry the blood of my ancestors," he said. "Your medical scanners can analyze my DNA. You will find that it matches no species in your records, because my species has been gone for 3,000 years. "DNA can be faked," said Ambassador. His voice was hostile. "You could be anything, a new species trying to deceive us." "You are right," Ho said. "DNA can be faked, but can you fake this?" He pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. A hologram appeared above his head. It showed a planet, blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, cities that glittered with light. "This is Earth," Ho said. "Recorded 3,042 years ago, before the holo came, before we had to run." The hologram changed. Now it showed space battles, ships fighting against something dark and terrible, explosions, death. "This is the war," Ho continued. "We fought for 50 years, we lost billions of lives, we lost colony after colony. The holo consumed everything, planets, stars, entire systems." The ambassadors watched in silence. Some looked sick, others looked scared. The recordings were old, but they were real. The pain and destruction were real. "We could not win," Ho said. "The holo was too strong, too hungry. It did not negotiate, it did not stop. It only consumed, so we made a choice. We built a weapon, a device that could create a prison around the holo, a seal that would trap it forever." "What kind of device?" Elder asked. His eyes were wet with tears. "We called it the Anchor. It took everything we had, all our resources, all our technology, and it required a sacrifice. Someone had to stay behind to activate it. Someone had to seal themselves inside with the holo." The chamber was completely silent. "Admiral Jin led the final mission," Ho said. "She flew her ship into the heart of the holo. She activated the Anchor, and she sealed herself and 10,000 volunteers inside. They gave their lives so that the rest of us could escape." Vila's voice was soft now. "Where did you go?" "We ran as far as we could. We found a place at the edge of the galaxy, a region with no stars, no planets, nothing. We called it the Void, and we hid there. We turned off our signals. We erased our records from every database we could reach. We made ourselves disappear." "Why?" asked. "Why hide?" Ho looked at him. "Because the holo could sense us. It tracked us by our communications, our energy signatures. If we stayed connected to the galaxy, it would eventually break free and find us. So we cut ourselves off. We became ghosts. We became a myth." "For 3,000 years, Vila said. "Your people survived in the void for 3,000 years. It was not easy. We lost many ships, many people. We had to grow our own food in artificial farms. We recycled every drop of water, every breath of air. We raised our children in metal boxes floating in empty space." Ho's voice was steady, but there was pain behind it. "But we survived, because we had hope. Hope that one day we could come home." "What changed?" asked. "Why return now?" Ho pressed another button. The hologram showed something new, a dark cloud spreading across the stars, systems going dark one by one. "The seal is breaking. We detected the first cracks 50 years ago. The holo is leaking through. It has already consumed 12 systems in the outer regions, systems that you probably have not visited in centuries, systems that are now just empty space. Gasps filled the chamber. Ambassadors checked their records. Ho was right. 12 systems that had been marked as inactive were now completely dead. No signals, no life. "We came back because you need us," Ho said, "and because we need you. The Hollow is too strong for us to fight alone. We are only 3 ships now, 3 ships and 20,000 people. That is all that remains of humanity." 20,000, Vila repeated. "Your entire species is 20,000 people." "Yes, and we will give every life if we must, but we hope it will not come to that. We hope that together, the human fleet and the Galactic Council can stop the Hollow before it breaks free completely." Stood up, his face was hard to read. "You want us to trust you, to believe this story about an ancient enemy that none of us have ever seen. You appear from nowhere after 3,000 years and expect us to follow you into war." "No," Ho said. "I do not expect you to follow. I expect you to fight beside us, as equals, as allies." "And if we refuse?" Ho was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was calm. "Then we will fight alone, as we did before, and we will probably die, but we will die trying to protect this galaxy, because that is who we are, that is who we have always been." Lieutenant Park stepped forward. She had not spoken until now, but something in his words had made her angry. "You think we want to be here," she said. Her voice was sharp. "You think we wanted to spend 3,000 years in the darkness, watching our children grow up without sunlight, without grass under their feet, without hope?" Looked at her. She was small compared to him, but she did not seem afraid. "We came back because it was the right thing to do," continued. "We could have stayed hidden. We could have let the Hollow consume you and then escaped to another galaxy, but we did not, because our ancestors taught us something. They taught us that life is precious, all life, not just human life." She pointed at Vila, at everyone in the chamber. "You forgot us. You turned us into a fairy tale, but we never forgot you. We kept records of every species we ever met, every world we ever visited, every song and story and dream that aliens shared with us. We preserved it all because you mattered to us, even when we were just a myth to you." The chamber was silent. His words hung in the air. Elder rose from his seat. He walked slowly toward Ho, and when he reached them, he bowed his head. "I believe you," he said. "I have always believed, and I will stand with you." One by one, other ambassadors stood up. Not all of them, but enough. Vila was among them. "The Council will discuss this," she said. "But I think you will have your alliance, Captain Lee. The myth of humanity is over. The legend has become real, and we will face this darkness together." Ho looked at. She nodded slightly. They had done it. Against all odds, they had done it. Now came the hard part. Now came the war. 3 days after the council meeting, a fleet of ships traveled to the edge of known space. Ambassador Vila had insisted on seeing the proof herself. She needed to know that the Hollow was real. She needed to see it with her own eyes. Captain Ho Lee stood on the bridge of his ship, the Dawn of Saul. Beside him were Lieutenant Park and his second officer, Commander One Hand. They watched the stars streak past as the fleet moved through fold space. "They still do not trust us completely," one said. He was older than Ho. His hair was gray at the edges. He had been fighting since he was 16 years old. "Would you trust us?" Ho replied. "We appeared from nothing. We told them their entire history was a lie. It will take time." "We do not have time," said quietly. She was right. Every day the Hollow grew stronger. Every day the seal weakened further. They had months at best, maybe weeks. The fleet dropped out of fold space near a system called 7. According to council records, it had been a thriving colony 50 years ago. 3 billion people had lived there. Farmers, miners, families. Now there was nothing. Vila stared at on her ship. Her 4 hands gripped the railing in front of her. Where there should have been a star, there was only darkness. Where there should have been planets, there was empty space. "What happened?" she whispered. Ho's voice came through the communication link. "The hollow happened. It consumed the star first, then the planets, then everything else. Matter, energy, light, it eats everything." "How is that possible?" "We do not know. We have studied the hollow for 3,000 years. We still do not understand what it truly is. Some think it is a living creature. Others think it is a weapon built by an ancient civilization. All we know is that it is hungry, and it never stops." Vila ordered her ship to scan the area. The results confirmed what Ho had said. There was nothing left. No atoms, no radiation, no trace that anything had ever existed here. "Show me more," she said. "I need to see more." The fleet traveled to another dead system, and another, 12 systems in total, all empty, all consumed. At the final system, they found something different. The darkness here moved. It pulsed. It reached toward them with tendrils of pure nothing. "That is the edge of the hollow," Ho said. "The seal is weakest here. It is trying to break through." Alarms sounded across every ship. The darkness was growing. It was reaching toward them. "Pull back," Ho ordered. "Everyone pull back now." The fleet retreated at maximum speed. Behind them, the darkness consumed the space where they had been moments before. Vila was breathing hard when her ship finally reached safety. Her crew looked terrified. They had seen something that should not exist, something that made their weapons and technology look like toys. "Now do you believe?" Ho asked. Vila nodded slowly. "Yes, I believe, and I am afraid." "Fear is good. Fear will keep us sharp, but do not let it control you. We have beaten the hollow before. We can beat it again." "How? You sealed it away last time. You said the seal is breaking. Can you build another anchor?" Ho was silent for a long moment. "The anchor required resources we no longer have, rare materials that took decades to gather. We cannot build another one, not in time." "Then what is your plan?" "We fight. We hold the hollow back as long as possible. And while we fight, our scientists work on a new solution." "What kind of solution?" Ho looked at one. The older man nodded slightly. They had discussed whether to share this information. They had decided to trust the council. "We call it the burn," Ho said. "It is a weapon that can destroy the hollow completely, not trap it, destroy it." Vila felt hope for the first time. "If you have such a weapon, why have you not used it?" "Because it requires a sacrifice, a terrible sacrifice." "What sacrifice?" Ho closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were filled with pain. "The burn draws its power from the hollow itself. To activate it, someone must enter the hollow. They must become part of it, and then they must detonate the weapon from inside." "That would kill them." "Yes, it would also destroy everything within a light-year radius, including any ship that delivers the weapon." Vila understood now. "You need a volunteer, someone willing to die to save the galaxy." "No," Ho said. "We have volunteers, thousands of them. Every human would give their life for this. The problem is reaching the heart of the hollow. It is defended. Creatures live inside it. Things that used to be ships, used to be people. They guard the core. No single ship can break through." "But a fleet could." "Yes, a fleet could create a path. A fleet could give one ship a chance to reach the center, but it would be a suicide mission for everyone involved." Vila thought about her people, about the worlds she had sworn to protect, about the children who played in parks and the farmers who grew food and the artists who created beauty. "I need to speak with the council," she said, "but I will recommend that we support your plan. We will give you your fleet." "Thank you, Ambassador, but you should know something else. The person who carries the burn inside the hollow cannot be a council ship. The weapon is human technology. It requires human DNA to activate. The volunteer must be one of us." "You already have someone in mind." Ho did not answer. He did not need to, was standing behind him. Her face was calm, determined. She had volunteered months ago, when the fleet first detected the seal breaking, when they realized what needed to be done. "I am the best pilot we have," said simply, "and I have no family left, no children, no one who depends on me. It makes sense." Vila looked at the young human woman. She was so small, so fragile-looking, but there was steel in her eyes, the same steel that had kept humanity alive in the darkness for 3,000 years. "You are very brave," Vila said. "No," replied. "I am very human. This is what we do. We sacrifice ourselves for others. It is in our nature. It is who we are." The fleet began its journey back to Council Station. Behind them, the darkness continued to grow. Time was running out. But for the first time in 3,000 years, the humans were not alone. They had allies, they had hope. And they had a plan. Whether it would be enough remained to be seen, but Ho knew one thing for certain. His people had survived the impossible before. They had hidden in the void. They had preserved their culture. They had raised children in metal ships far from any sun. They were humans, and humans never gave up. Not until the very end. The Allied fleet gathered at the edge of the dead zone, 1,000 ships from 47 species. They hung in space like stars waiting to be born. Each one carried soldiers who had chosen to fight. Each one carried hope. Lieutenant Park stood in her quarters aboard the Dawn of Sol. She was alone. In her hands was a small photograph. It showed her parents and her younger brother. They had died when she was 10 years old. A sickness had swept through the refugee fleet. There was no cure. She had survived. She did not know why, but she had promised herself that their deaths would mean something, that she would live a life worth living. Now she was about to die, and she was not afraid. A knock came at her door. "Come in," she said. Captain Ho Lee entered. He looked tired. He had not slept in days. The weight of the entire mission was on his shoulders. "It is almost time," he said. "I know." He sat down beside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They had known each other for 15 years. They had trained together, fought together, survived together. "I wish there was another way," Ho said finally. "There is not, we both know that. I could go instead, you could stay." Shook her head. "You are the captain, the fleet needs you, our people need you, I am just a pilot." "You are not just anything. You are the bravest person I have ever known." She smiled. It was a sad smile. "Tell stories about me. When this is over, tell the children about the girl who flew into the darkness." "I will, I promise." She stood up and put on her flight suit. It was old, patched in a dozen places, but it fit her perfectly. It had been her mother's once. "Ready?" Ho asked. "Ready." They walked together to the launch bay. The ship was waiting. It was small, built for speed. The burn weapon sat in its cargo hold. It hummed with power that could feel in her bones. The entire crew of the Dawn of Sol had gathered to see her off. They stood in lines, saluting as she passed. Some were crying. Others simply watched with respect. One hand was waiting by the ship. He handed her a small device. "Communications relay," he explained. "So we can hear you, so you will not be alone." Took it. "Thank you, Commander." "Thank you, Lieutenant, for everything." She climbed into her ship. The cockpit was cramped but familiar. She had flown hundreds of missions in vessels like this, but this would be her last. Ho's voice came through her communicator. "All ships, this is Captain Lee. Begin final approach. Protect Lieutenant Park at all costs. Get her to the heart of the hollow, no matter what." The Allied fleet moved forward as one. Council ships flew beside human warships. Species that had been enemies for centuries now fought together. The darkness waited for them. Pushed her engines to maximum power. Around her, the fleet formed a protective barrier. Weapons fired. Shields flared. The first wave of hollow creatures emerged from the darkness. They were nightmares made real, ships that had been consumed and twisted. They had no crews anymore, no minds, only hunger. "Stay on course," Ho ordered. "Do not let them through." The battle was chaos, ships exploded, lives ended, but the fleet pushed forward. They carved a path through the darkness. Flew faster than she had ever flown before. She dodged debris and enemy fire. Her hands moved across the controls with perfect precision. "You are almost there," one said through the communicator. 5 minutes to the core." "I see it," replied. The heart of the hollow was worse than she had imagined. It was a void within a void, a place where nothing existed, not light, not matter, not time. It was Ho's voice. "The weapon is armed. You can activate it whenever you are ready." She took a deep breath. "Tell the council something for me." "Anything." "Tell them that humans never forgot them. Tell them that we kept their songs and their stories and their dreams. Tell them that even in the darkness we remembered the stars. And tell them," her voice cracked slightly, "tell them that Earth was real, that we were real, that we loved and fought and dreamed just like they do." "I will tell them, I promise." "Thank you, Ho, for everything, for being my captain, my friend. Thank you for being human, for being the best of us." She entered the heart of the hollow. The darkness surrounded her completely. She could feel it pressing against her ship, trying to consume her. But she was not afraid. She activated the burn. Light exploded from her ship, pure, brilliant light that spread through the darkness like fire through paper. The hollow screamed, or something like a scream, a sound that existed beyond sound. The light grew, it pushed back the darkness, it burned away the void. "It is working," one shouted through the communicator. "The hollow is collapsing." Smiled, she could feel the heat now, feel her ship breaking apart around her, but she did not care. She had done what she came to do. "Goodbye," she whispered. And then there was only light. The Allied fleet watched as the hollow imploded. It collapsed in on itself. The darkness that had threatened to consume the galaxy was gone in an instant. Where the void had been, there were now stars, thousands of them. Stars that had been hidden for 3,000 years were visible again. Ho stood on the bridge of the dawn of Sol. Tears ran down his face. Around him, his crew celebrated. The war was over. They had won. But the cost had been too high. 1 week later, the Galactic Council held a ceremony. Every species was represented. They gathered to honor the humans, to thank them for their sacrifice. Ambassador Vila spoke first. 3,000 years ago, we forgot the humans. We turned them into a myth, a fairy tale. We were wrong. The humans were real. They suffered in silence so that we could live in peace. And when the darkness returned, they came back. They fought beside us. They died for us. She looked at Ho, who stood with the remaining humans. There were only 19,000 of them now. They had lost 1,000 in the battle. Lieutenant Park gave her life to save us all. She flew into the heart of darkness and burned it away. She was not a legend. She was not a myth. She was a human. And she was a hero. Elder stepped forward. He carried a small box. Inside was a medal, the highest honor the council could give. "This is for her," he said, "and for all the humans who died in the darkness, for those who sealed the hollow the first time, for those who survived in the void, for those who came back to save us." Ho took the medal. It was small, light, worth almost nothing in material terms. But it meant everything. "Told me to tell you something," he said. His voice carried across the chamber. "She wanted you to know that humans never forgot you. We kept your songs, your stories, your dreams. Even when we were just a myth to you, you were real to us." He held up the medal. "She also wanted you to know that Earth was real, that we were real, that we loved and fought and dreamed just like you do." He paused. "And I want to add something of my own. The war is over, but our people have nowhere to go. Our ships are old. Our numbers are few. We have been wandering for 3,000 years. Vila understood. You want a home. Yes, somewhere our children can grow up under a real sun. Somewhere we can plant trees and build houses and live in peace. The ambassadors looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. You will have your home, Vila said. The council will give you a world, any world you want. You have earned it. Ho felt something he had not felt in years. Hope, real hope. Thank you, he said. On behalf of all humans, thank you. Outside the grand chamber, the stars burned bright. Somewhere among them was a new home waiting for humanity, a place where they could finally rest, where they could finally live. The myth had become real, the legend had come home. And the humans, as always, had survived.